what's your definition of wealth? For me, having the ability to grow as much food as we want, have food right in our backyard, homeschool our kids, and live life on our own terms. And in order to do all of those things, it actually doesn't require that much money. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. 5 ways that you could homestead on a budget. And I'll talk about ways that we've done that in our life. Maybe that could help you as well. Now, we own our land and our home mortgage free. And that might sound like a very expensive thing to do. But in this video, I'm going to explain to you why it's not. And it's all about a mindset shift. And in order to shift your priorities for what's important and ways that you could work towards those goals and have your own homestead and do it on a budget. In fact, I think homesteading in general is a great way to save money, because if you do it the right way, you're not only growing your own food that you don't have to buy at the store, but you're buying better food. And in the process of doing all of those things, you're getting your body out there and you're exercising, and you're going to be even healthier than if you weren't doing all of these things. At least homesteading gets you out and active, and that's really, really important for longevity in your life. Now, the first thing I think you should do, and this isn't one of my 5 reasons, but this is an important thing that I think should be considered before even thinking about buying a homestead or starting a homestead, is knowing your why. Why do you want to have a homestead? Why do you want a homestead? You have to have a really good reason to want to do it, because it's a ton of work. It's a lot of work. It's very tasking on your body. It can be. There's a lot of chores, a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of animals, if you have animals, that need to be taken care of. And you have to have a strong why, because there's going to be days that you don't want to get out of the house. And when it's freezing rain like it is today, and everything's covered in ice, and it's cold and it's windy, and you don't want to get out and do stuff, but you still have to take care of those animals. You still have to take care of those chores. So you have to have a strong why, or none of this is going to matter. You need to really want it, and you need to make it happen. Tip number 1 for homesteading on a budget is to find ways to eliminate unnecessary expenses. And you could go a whole bunch of different ways looking at this, but if you just look at your monthly expenses each month, first of all, that's a start to look at them, because I guarantee, I'll tell you, I used to not look at my monthly expenses, and just when I was working and I had not much time, I was just commuting to work and home and doing all these things. I was making lots of money, and I was just spending, and I wasn't thinking about what I was spending them on. And that's the first step, is to actually look at your expenses and see what's important and what's not. What's going to get you closer to your goal of homesteading, and what's taking you further away from that goal. So for us, eliminating unnecessary expenses, we started with simple things like our cell phone bill. We used to use AT&T, and that was, I can't tell you on the top of my head how much it cost. Maybe around like $100 a month or something like that for a family plan. But within the last few years, we switched to Mint Mobile, and it's a lot cheaper. We pay a monthly or a yearly. We pay it yearly, and it comes down to way, way less per month to use Mint Mobile. So we still have good cell phone service, but we just found one way cheaper. So that bill got cheaper. All of our vehicles, we own them. We don't have one monthly payment on our cars. And we either got them as, luckily, we got some hand-me-downs from family members that were moving on to, a different vehicle and wanted to get rid of an older vehicle. We end up taking those vehicles and using them as long as they will work. It doesn't matter that you have a new vehicle. When I was younger, I used to think that was a really important thing to have, but now I realize it's not. And having a monthly payment on a vehicle is maybe one of the worst things you can do, because once you drive that car off the lot, it loses value. It's something that's losing you value. So a car or truck or whatever, it's a tool to get you from place to place, and it shouldn't be taking away from your goals of getting a homestead, moving into a homestead, or doing different things on your homestead. So if you're willing to do that, it's just making sacrifices. There's different sacrifices that you have to be willing to make in order to get where you want to go. And you have to just think about what's important and what's not. Eliminate what's not. If you don't need to watch Netflix every night, eliminate that $15 a month thing, whatever, Hulu, Amazon, whatever. If those things aren't serving you, get rid of them. YouTube is free, by the way. hey, you should subscribe to this channel. This is a pretty good channel, Once Upon a Tiny Farm. I like this guy. He's got a lot of good advice. You should subscribe to this channel if you're not already. Another real easy way to eliminate some expenses is to grow your own food. Start a small garden and grow your own food. It's going to be cheaper than buying it at the store. It's going to be healthier than buying it at the store, as long as you do things the right way. And that's actually something that I could help you with. I have plans down below for our 400 square foot garden, which we set up in front of our house. It only requires 400 square feet of space, and I'll give you a plan to transform a patch of grass into a usable garden space in my free plan. So click them down in the link below. You can sign up and get our free 400 square foot garden plans, and I'll give you a plan to grow food throughout the entire year with that. So definitely check that out. All right, tip number 2 for homesteading on a budget is to make things yourself and fix things yourself that break. This is something that I didn't used to do. I used to hire people out, experts, people that know what they're doing in order to do certain jobs. We just had a water heater break in our house, and old me would have called a plumber to come and take out the old one, put in a new one, tighten everything up. But this time I figured out how to do it myself, and I felt really proud of myself after I did that. And now I have those skills for the rest of my life to know how to fix or replace a water heater. It was a little bit stressful, but we figured it out. And that's the kind of thing. If we need to build something or make something, we try to figure out how we can do it ourselves, because you're going to do it a lot cheaper, or you can find ways to do things cheaper, make things cheaper by sourcing materials from different places like Facebook Marketplace, things like that. And just building it yourself, you're going to save money, and you're also going to learn new skills. If you don't know how to do them already, you're going to learn how to do things for the future. So your future self will thank you for trying to do these things that you don't know how to do. And that's how we learn. Now, tip number 3 for homesteading on a budget is to not worry about perfectionism. And this can go for a lot of different areas of your life. I still struggle with this with different projects of mine. I put them off because I'm afraid I'm just not going to do it correctly, or it's not going to be perfect. And then things just never get done. And I'm trying to move past that. I was thinking of this. I was watching a podcast that Joel Salatin does, and he was talking about this idea of perfectionism and why you should avoid it or not worry about it. And he was talking about a time where early on in his farming journey, they needed a pole barn built, and they didn't have the money to pay someone to do it. And they ended up, sourcing materials and doing it themselves. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't great. But did it work? Yes, for a really, really long time. And then years later, when they had the funds and their business grew, they were able to, fix it and, build a proper pole barn. But for years, they had this pole barn that wasn't great, perfect. It leaked in some spots, whatever, but it worked. And that's really important for your homestead. You might have an idea of a homestead that you want to buy that's really, really expensive and out of your price range, and it might just be out of the possibilities because you can't afford it, and you just might always be dreaming of having this perfect homestead, when if you just look around or just adjust your mindset a little bit, there might be a diamond in the rough property out there that you can afford, that maybe you need to put a little bit of sweat equity into it, do a little bit of work to it. And a lot of people are scared off by hard work. But if you're able to see the potential of something like that, you could get a bargain of a property. And that's kind of what we had here. We had an old, broken down, manufactured home that was on this property, but it was a half an acre. It was all open. It had all the utilities that we wanted. And we got it cheaper because the sellers knew that whoever was going to move here was going to need to demolish this home that was here. And we were young and determined, and we were willing to do the work. So we got a really good deal on our half acre property, and that's really served us well into the future. And we've been able to save now that we own this property. We saved in order to buy it. For years, we worked really, really hard before we had kids, and we were both working long hours. My wife and I didn't see each other that much. We were working really hard, but all that work, now we are reaping the benefits of all those years of hard work, and we own this without any mortgage or bills, and our monthly bills are very, very low, and that's really important. And now we can really enjoy our own time and do things on our own terms, and that's the way we want to live our life. And if that's something you want as well, you might want to look for a diamond in the rough. Don't worry about perfectionism. Just change the way that, change your mindset a little bit. And if you really want to homestead and make this happen, you'll figure out a way to make it happen. And speaking of not worrying about perfectionism, I definitely did something very similar with our chicken coop and chicken run area. In 2020, when we got our chickens, I just knew in my gut that we needed to get chickens. I wanted to get chickens. I wasn't prepared for chickens, but I used the materials that we had on hand to build a coop, which I've never did before, but it's been doing fantastic. The run area is not beautiful or perfect in any way, but does it work? Yes. Would I like to make it a little bit nicer in the future? Yes, but for now it works, and it isn't costing me anything because I did almost all of it for free with free materials from friends, family, and Facebook Marketplace. The only thing I really had to buy for our chicken run area was a little bit of fencing, chicken wire, but did it as inexpensively as possible, and now we have fresh eggs almost every day. So don't worry about perfectionism, just make things happen. All right, tip number 4 for homesteading on a budget is to utilize Facebook Marketplace. Utilize things like Craigslist and other things like that in order to get tools and machines and things that you need for your homestead, but do it on a budget so you don't have to buy brand new for everything that you get. There's a lot of tools that you can find on Facebook Marketplace, like something like a tiller. Like I got a tiller last year for like $100 that somebody used once or twice and just had it sit in their shed for years, and I was able to get it because they don't use it and wanted to get rid of it. That's where you find your diamonds in the rough, where you can get some tools that can move your goals closer and save some money doing that over buying brand new. There's lots of other things that you find on Facebook Marketplaces too that might be really beneficial to you and other people are not interested in or don't need anymore and just trying to make space and get rid of, and could be really valuable to you and your homestead. So I am always looking at Facebook Marketplaces for things like totes, IBC totes for water collection, different kinds of things like that. I bought last year I got an A-frame chicken tractor that somebody else made for something like $100, and it was in really good condition, really well made. So if you're looking and find good deals near you, definitely check out Facebook Marketplace. You'll save some money and get yourself closer to your homesteading goals. My last tip number 5, is to just start homesteading. Just start wherever you live. Start wherever you are. If you have a really small backyard, just start. Do what you can where you are. Don't worry about what you don't have yet or these things that you think you need. Just start where you are, and you'll still benefit from those things that you learn and do in the future. As you move towards those real goals of having a bigger real homestead, whatever it is. But start in your backyard. Start with a small garden. Start with a few chickens. Start with a few rabbits. Rabbits could be a really amazing first animal to keep because they're really quiet and you can use their manure for fertilizing your garden. That might be the best kind of animal other than chickens, because chickens can be a little bit noisy. So if I were doing things over again, maybe rabbits might be a better thing to do because you could raise them for meat and also have some fertilizer for your garden. They're a very versatile animal. But start where you are. Just start small and work towards your goals, and don't worry about what you don't have. Keep looking. Look on Craigslist for land. That's where we found our property. We found it on Craigslist. My wife did. And I'm so glad that we did. You know, you can even find land on eBay. There's lots of different sites, but don't stick to Zillow and Realtor.com. There's a lot of other places. You might even be able to go up to a property like a farm with all these acres and ask, the owner if they'd be willing to sell you or subdivide whatever the term is, some of that land so you can own it. That might be a way that you could have a small piece of land in your small homestead and get started somewhere. Just ask. Just find those diamonds in the rough. Don't worry about finding the perfect homestead that already has everything set up for you. I think you're better off finding one that needs some work on it, because then you're going to learn in the process of doing all the work that needs to be done, and you're going to be better in the future by learning all these tools and learning all these skills that you need to do to fix up your homestead And it's going to be a more fun part of your journey to know that you developed something kind of cool that didn't exist before. And sometimes I look around our homestead and I feel the same way, like, wow, this used to be just grass. And look at it now. It's all full of gardens. You know, I get in trouble because I left very little grass for our kids to play with. But what do they need to play on the grass for? They can play in the gardens as long as they're not stepping on our tomato plants, right? Who cares? But there you go. I gave you 5 tips for ways that you could homestead on a budget and get working towards your homesteading goals today. I hope you found this video valuable. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and thanks for watching. And subscribe if you're new here. I'd really appreciate that as well. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Take care.